Hello, people. Welcome back. Hey, Tutu. How's everyone doing? Let's take this one away and switch to something more interesting here. So, Monday, new week, more game dev. Exciting times. All right. As always, let me know if the audio levels are botched. Let's try to unbotch them. And I think we'll continue pretty much where we stopped last time. I did a little bit of fixing things since last stream. You can now actually just press start new game here and it will transition directly into the intro cinematic here. But I don't think we will actually look at that right now. We also had some other issues with nav mesh generation and the like last time. I think I managed to solve most of them at least. First of all, we don't need to generate nav meshes for this like background geometry here. Obviously. But the system actually just essentially pushes the whole scene to the nav mesh generator, so it just took all of that into consideration. Now I have this handy little bounds volume here, which should allow us to lay out the area where we actually want the nav mesh. We still have places like this where the player is actually never going to be going. At least they're not supposed to go here. There's actually no physics collision up here, I think. Which makes this a little stupid. Like if we turn this on, you can see that I'm actually cut off the physics shapes here at like the halfway point. Because it's kind of reasonable to expect a player to like bump against the lower parts of the clip, not necessarily the higher parts. Yeah, and we have some of these here that I've just reused in the background. That have like actually really detailed physics meshes, even though they're far away from the playable area. But yeah, it is what it is. Let's just let's regenerate the nav mesh on this machine to make sure that we actually have the thing sort of up to date and working as intended. And when we have that, we'll start looking at the driving AI a little bit more. In particular, the campaign kind of requires the player to be able to tell the other cars that, hey, drive there or come to me or something along those lines. It's a very sort of fuzzy specification. In that, like, what does come to me mean? And it probably means different things for like a scout vehicle than it does for a mother vehicle. Things like that. But we'll have to start with something and then see how well it works. And we don't actually need it to be like super accurate necessarily. Not exactly sure what the game design requires there. But basically you're supposed to drive somewhere, and if that area is accessible to everyone, then you're supposed to be able to tell the other vehicles in your little group to actually drive to you. And like one example of a place where that won't be possible is, for example, if you drive here and you have the mother vehicle lift you up onto those cliffs there, and then when you're up there you tell the mother vehicle, hey, come to me. It will just go like, no can do. No can do, sir. And we need to handle that thing gracefully as well. But yes, we probably won't get to all of this today. But I kind of need this system to work, at least on a very basic level, to be able to implement the full mission for the demo. So let's see what we can do about that. And the first thing actually that we'll probably need to do is quite simply, if we are in the campaign, then in the campaign you have sort of like a group of vehicles, which we've seen before. Essentially we have like this guy and we have this guy. So the big mother vehicle and then this guy here. There are some vehicles that are kind of like sitting in the environment. These are actually not such things. These are actually just test vehicles. Oh, here you can actually see, yeah, this is a bug. We need to fix this. So we have two trucks. They are of type truck 2. And their meshes are set up incorrectly. So they actually cut holes into the nav mesh. Let's see. Chassis mesh, blocks nav mesh, no. And the bed also has one. So take those away. That should be good. Same thing for the other truck. Don't block the nav mesh. Don't block the nav mesh. That's good. Now we should be able to just reload this and regenerate the nav mesh. So vehicles actually do cut holes into the nav mesh, but they're doing that through the nav mesh obstacle system, where it essentially sort of it can remove and add obstacles to the nav mesh dynamically, so that when the vehicles move around, they can cut sort of almost kind of like temporary holes into the nav mesh, so that other vehicles know to drive around them. All right, so let's rebuild this thing. And these vehicles are not kind of considered to be part of your group from sort of like a narrative or story point of view. And we have some vehicles that we have looked at previously. Some vehicles that are kind of spawned in as part of the mission. We have this gripper here. This guy is kind of part of the place in a narrative sense. But it is kind of found here, and it will probably be left here. I don't think you will be able to bring that with you to the next mission, next area. But in particular, you'll start the mission with this guy here. Oh, do we have the same thing here as well, actually? I think we might have it. Let's see. Mesh. We don't actually block the nav mesh, but we might have one of the. Yeah, the interior blocks the nav mesh. Interesting. Wonder if that's the only one. No. Windshield is blocking. And that looks like it is. Yeah, so it has a nav mesh obstacle component, which specifies the hole in the nav mesh that it is taking at runtime, or it's sort of cutting out. This is interesting. This probably means that this mother vehicle has sort of driven around this area in the beginning, but we can't really see it because of the camera animation we set up in a previous stream. But let's have a look. Right, so there's still something here that cuts a hole into the thing. I wonder what that is. I mean, it's clearly this vehicle, right? Does this actually have a base type? It does not have a base type. So you can put another type here, and it will sort of first it will put the base types component onto the type, and then you can add more things. So sometimes I use that if I have like super complicated vehicles and have like a base that's reused over multiple ones. But that doesn't seem to be the case. The chassis is not blocking. So one thing might be that, yeah, actually I think I know what this is. It is probably these suspensions right here. I'm gonna save this just in case I didn't save it earlier. Let's go into suspension render a component, something like that. And actually we'll look at the interaction as well. Set flag, no. What's it called? It's not that then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I actually fixed a bug just the other day related to this. If we go to mesh instance, blocks nav mesh, that is the flag that I'm looking for. All right, interaction area visuals. Yeah, this thing might be missing. So we have a mesh instance somewhere. We need to set the flag to false for this blocks nav mesh value. So let's make sure we have that for the suspension, and the reason I think it's the suspension is that it actually sort of it is widest here, and then it sort of becomes narrower, and then it becomes wider again. So it's probably like these 4 suspension mesh assemblies here that actually cut those holes. Right, let's see. Part visuals has a render object, yes. So that would mean that we have a mesh instance somewhere. Create part visuals, that looks like a good place. We are actually already setting a flag on it. So we just do this. And then instead of rendered using LightPro GI, we just set blocks nav mesh. And we set that to false. That will probably fix it for us. Let's rebuild this thing. So the mesh component that allows you to actually set these things here in this editor, they basically do exactly the same. But we're not using actually a mesh component here, we're just creating the mesh instance from code. And so that's why we can't set it from the editor. But deep down, it is actually exactly the same. Alright, so nav mesh 1. Now let's see if we can get rid of that cutout. Look at that. Good. So now it looks like we have a nice continuous nav mesh. We can still do a quick scan around the place to see that we don't have any other stupid things happening here. Sometimes this kind of cuts into the terrain a little bit without there actually being a hole in the nav mesh. This is now single-sided, so you can't really see it. And that's just because this mesh here is not tessellated the same as the terrain. You can set the distance. If I draw y offset is here. Like, just make that higher, and you can see that now that we moved it up, it actually doesn't have a hole there. But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good idea to have it reasonably close. So as long as you are aware of these things, it's not really an issue most of the time. This is interesting. I wonder what do we have here that's actually blocking. Oh, it's probably just that this is sort of steep enough. Yeah, you get sort of this tiny island there. Yeah, here we have again something that just cuts through. Not a big problem. And one thing that I realized since last time is that we probably actually need to have a separate nav mesh for the mother vehicle. Arguably, you should perhaps have one per sort of vehicle type. But at least we need one for the mother vehicle. Because when the mother vehicle enters this base here, for example, this is designed so that it will fit the mother vehicle nicely so that they can drive up this main path here and then up to the elevator. But it can't, for example, fit under this monorail track. And these power lines are also set up in such a way that it can sort of move around this area, but it can't actually fit under this power line here. So this whole area on this side of the base, this is kind of inaccessible to the mother vehicle. So what we probably want to do is just block this out so that it doesn't even have a nav mesh over there. Then we can just quickly go like, if the nav mesh query returns false, then we can just, not care, or report to the player that nope, I can't come over there, you come here instead. Something along those lines. Most of this is nicely traversable. That's good. Yeah, this is a place that we need to block off with some trees and rocks and stuff so that the mother vehicle can't actually drive down here, because it won't be able to fit through here to get back up. That's important. But yeah, this is completely undecorated still. I'll do a decoration live stream at some point probably, and we'll just make this beautiful. Cool. Okay, so the nav mesh looks reasonable for now, at least. That's good. So let's have a look at the code again. Actually, I want to make it easy to skip the intro. So this is the thing, this is the scene that the intro takes place in. These two vehicles are driving along the road, spewing some lore at you, and then driving here. You can see that actually we have some nav mesh on this old block out smoke pillar here. Let's just get rid of all of this. It's kind of annoying that we have it there. Maybe we can set up a nav mesh bounce object for this one as well. We just need this road essentially. There's really no gameplay taking place in this area at all. So let's do that. Bounding volume can go on the base level, base layer, and we can call this like nav mesh bounce, and move it up there. Oh, this. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, this actually doesn't use a bounding box object. Yeah, it's been such a long time since I made this nav mesh, and indeed, since I've even used it all that much. So, where's the world origin? World origin is over there. Let's keep it at the world origin, and then we can just start making it larger. Right. That's a bit unnecessarily high. That looks better. 500 by 800. Is that enough? It's not quite enough. 1,000. 1,000 looks good. Covers the whole thing. Let's just make sure that the targets that those guys are aiming at is actually inside of this. So blah 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 blah. Nav mesh road. It's probably under intro. Yeah, intro nav target is over there. It's actually not inside of it. I'm just gonna make this a slightly bigger. Doesn't really matter, but I guess it's nice. 1024, why not? Something like that. And now then, just rebuild this thing. So that's good. We got rid of those obviously in the distance. We also got rid of the ones up here. Have a little bit of nav mesh up on that part there. I'm not exactly sure if I will actually use this ever for any gameplay segments. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But for now, let's not really care about that. The important thing is that we have this road here running through. Anyway, what I basically want to happen is that when we start the intro sequence, I basically just want to skip it completely and go directly to the next scene. And so, how should we make that happen? Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. As the intro timeline is over here. So, yeah, there's the Madrigal animated logo. There's a game intro. There's even the music. Yeah, this is annoying because I call like add play and forget sound event. And what that means is that we just play the sound. We can't really stop it. We can't really pause it. We can't really do anything about it, right? So we don't want to have a way to skip the intro, but still have this sound playing in the background. So I wonder, this is on a timeline. Wonder, I did have some like very bare bones skipping functionality implemented, didn't I? Let's see. Timeline zig. Yeah, skip. So it calls advanced time played to the end. Yeah, it advances the time enough so that we essentially like go to the very end of the thing. So this might actually just handle all of that for us. All right. I bet we have the actual play sound event here and the timeline sound event. Yeah, okay. So we can't actually call play and forget, because what happens here is that play and forget is basically like a boolean. You just give it here, and you store it in the event. And then when we enter the event, and remember that this is essentially sort of like a timeline with things that you might place on like a sequencer in Unreal or something like that. And when we enter here, if we are calling, or if we're using play and forget, it just calls the thing and then forgets all about it. Lets the audio engine take care of the whole thing. So we can't use that because it essentially loses the event instance. What we instead want is this other one, event instance, because this one actually calls exit on it. However, there's another wrinkle here. And the wrinkle is that it has been pretty nice that the music has kept playing when the event has when the timeline has finished, because that means that it kind of stays and fades out nicely when we go to the other scene. And that actually only happens if you use play and forget, so that's probably why I used it in the first place. Because exit is called when we actually exit it, and it will also be called if we skip the whole timeline. And we'll call exit on all the nodes that were there. And you can see here that if we have an event instance, if it's not null, then we actually stop it. So it's sort of like the other, the opposite side to doing this here. So now I have a case where if I play the intro normally, naturally through, as you would expect the player to do, you want the vehicles to approach from here and then exit here. And you want the music to continue playing as this whole scene is unloaded and the actual gameplay area is loaded. But if we skip the thing, you want the music to stop. Yeah. What a conundrum. How do we do that? I'm kind of thinking that maybe we just don't handle that currently. We just let the music play out. It's mostly for development things anyway. So let's just do this like the absolute easiest way I can think of doing it now. We'll simply add a new method here that we annotate with the dev annotation, so that we can call it from the debug menu. Just call skip intro. And self.skip is not actually exposed, so we'll probably just need to expose it to the scripting layer. Yeah, we have play, we have probably stop as well. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Let's unload this one and go to scripted timeline component. Right, so here we have play and stop. Basically, what I want is to have a skip. We'll quite simply add a new function here. Play, stop, skip. Yep. Looks good. It only skips if we're on the server. That is completely fine. We only want to skip it on the server anyway to keep the script that holds this whole thing together to only be available on the server. Or shall we say only be running on the server. So now we should have it available to us in the script. Let's go to intro, timeline, self dot skip. Make sure that builds, and it does look like it does. Right, so let's add a comment here that this currently does not stop the music. To do fix. So if I search for to-dos later on, I will see that. Let's drag that there, and we can have a quick go. See what happens. Alright, so just start new game. That should start playing the thing. And now if we do skip intro, you can see that actually starts loading. There we go. And now we are in the right. Okay. Yeah. I need to mute this because it's screaming at me in my headphones. Right, so we actually have, there's some other things here that we need to actually fix. We have the mission running. We have the mission running, and this is kind of tricky actually, probably, because we have some events here that are kind of tricky to actually skip. Yeah, like we can add full screen SVG animation event. That's fine. It plays an animation, and then if we skip past it, then it just quite simply won't do that anymore. Playing this sound event here and this other sound event here, these are kind of trickier to skip, as we've covered, and we have the whole intro here as well. Then we have like start mission event. Yeah, we actually kind of want to skip this. We don't want to actually even run it. Right? This thing is what now triggers the intro mission. It's technically a mission, even though it kind of plays itself, right? Because the mission is the way that we can actually order these guys to move around and talk to each other and all of that. So yeah. Yeah, I need to think about the skipping some more, but this wasn't really what I was kind of thinking I would work on today. Now at least, if we go into, now that we sort of moved into the next level, I should be able to just click load game here, and it should continue in the correct level, right? Yes, it does. And this is now this is actually the tweaked camera animation. I tweaked it a little bit since last time, so it looks a bit nicer. No longer intersects with the mother vehicle, and it sort of blends nicely together with the vehicle camera there. So I like it a lot. It's kind of nice. And now the part that I was actually thinking about doing today is this. We've now arrived here, and this is sort of the start of the demo campaign, if you will. Even though it's probably not the start of the campaign for the full game, but the demo starts here. So now we have essentially two vehicles, right? We have the Scout here, and we have the mother vehicle over there. First of all, if we switch to the mother vehicle, like so, you can see that the camera works and all of that. You can't actually drive it. You can hear me pressing the buttons, nothing happens. That's because the AI is still controlling this vehicle. And by controlling, I mean it is basically just standing on the brake pedal. Because it is ordered to drive here, right? So when we switch to this big guy, we want to at least temporarily disable the AI for that, because we are now in control of this thing. At the same time, we now can issue orders to this guy, because it should now be controlled by the AI. That, of course, doesn't happen either. We don't really have a way to give any orders to anyone currently. But I think like the immediate problem here is that we can't actually drive any other vehicle that has been AI enabled, because we don't really disable the AI like ever. So I think that's probably the first thing to figure out, right? How do we actually disable and enable the AI on the fly? And of course, in basis terms, what we're actually doing here when we're switching between these two guys is that we are setting the avatar object. So the avatar is the object that represents a player in the game. And we're just basically, the engine is telling the gameplay system, you are now this thing. And so we need to essentially listen for changes to that. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna actually... Okay, I'll just save this for now. This currently does not stop the music, does not stop really anything. I'm not very happy with this. Let's remove it. Let's take it away. Doesn't stop the mission being played or anything like that. Need to think about that some more. Yeah. So, the way we can listen to changes to the avatar selection is by using something called an avatar tracking component, or essentially using that as a base for a component. So I think it's probably something like context : avatar. Yeah. So Zig obviously doesn't have base classes. There's no inheritance or anything like that. But I'm kind of simulating that by having something that I call a context. The context for a component. And there are currently two of them. There's the very basic one, which is this game object component. And there's a slightly more advanced one, which is the avatar tracking component. Avatar tracking component just gives you the ability to track when the avatar changes related to the owning object, essentially. So cargo crane component, this would be put on a vehicle, for example, and then this can track when the vehicle becomes or loses avatar status. It also allows you to read input, which is something that you can't typically do normally. You can read like raw input if you're on the client, but on the server, for example, you can only read like game input, which is like only piped to the object that is the current avatar. And so this guy has some things like, let's see what it actually has. you can check first of all whether or not it is the active component, the active avatar is client local avatar, which is only true if you're on the client and you are the avatar for the current client player. An avatar host ID can also be used on the server and can read input, blah blah blah. But there are even some callbacks that we can hook into. Let's see, vehicle avatar component. That looks like a very good place to actually start looking for this. Yeah, on became client local avatar. That's kind of self-explanatory, I hope. On became server avatar. On lost client local avatar. And there's a similar for the server as well. Somewhere here. On lost server avatar. And I think the prototype is the same. The signature is the same as this. So we're dealing with AI here, which an AI runs on the server. So we're essentially solely interested in the server side of things here. So what should we do? Let's do something like this is printf. No longer avatar, and let's get the name of the owning object, which we can get by calling self context get game object get name. Just to make sure that these two guys are actually fired. Is now the avatar. Something like that. Load game. And we should actually see the output here at some point. This camera sequence actually sets the avatar, if you remember from the previous stream where we scripted this thing. So we should actually get the output here now if I did that correctly. Right. Mission underscore elevator colon vehicles colon scout is now the avatar. That's good. And if we actually load the test vehicles, we should get a few more vehicles here to play around with. And there's one. So test vehicles is now the avatar. Mission elevator vehicle scout is no longer the avatar. Test vehicle 1 is now the avatar. Yeah. And I think, not exactly sure, but I think there was a slight quirk to this system where the no longer avatar thingy wasn't called necessarily 100% of the cases. It sort of depends a little bit on how the avatar is set. And as you can see here, the order is actually not guaranteed to be the same for all of these. When you switch to the mother, it says the mother is now the avatar, scout is no longer the avatar. When you switch back, it says mother is no longer the avatar, scout is now the avatar. But if we go here and switch to this guy, it says scout is no longer the avatar, test vehicle 2 is now. And then it says scout is now, so it's not always sort of like the one that just was is no longer, and then the one that becomes is now. It can be either order. And all of this essentially just means that we probably only want to track the like is now avatar thingy in some maybe in some manager somewhere or something. I wonder if I have some comments on that, because of course we're kind of we are essentially interested in this thing here, right? When we become the avatar, that is when we need to disable the AI so that the player can again drive around. Yeah, maybe that is actually how, as maybe that's the length of it. Maybe that's all that we need to care about. If something loses avatar status, we don't necessarily need to start doing something immediately. But when we become an avatar, then we need to immediately disable the AI. Yeah, I think that's how it's probably... That's probably how it needs to happen. So we have the brain. We have the brain component. Which is kind of the whole entry point to the AI system. This can be scripted to do things. This can be given just commands, orders by just using these public functions. So maybe what we actually want to do here is just run like a disable AI command on the thing. Right. I think that's probably what we want to do. So this is essentially how we just disable the AI on this scout after it has reached its destination and this intro is at an end. We call clear all layers, which clears all the scheduler, essentially like the list of tasks for the AI to do. Clear everything, and then run one more, and the one that we run actually just disables everything. So we want to do this, but we want to translate it into Zig instead of running it from a script. So we have vehicle avatar component here. Does this actually use the brain thing at all? No. Okay, that's cool. Not a problem, we just have to make that happen. So this is not something that I do like super often, but every now and then you have to get a pointer to another component. Here we have, for example, the vehicle controller component has a pointer to... the vehicle avatar component has a pointer to a vehicle controller component, like this. Now the brain component isn't necessarily there for all vehicles, so we need to make it an optional one. Let's see. Drivetrain component, we apparently have one of those as well. Yeah, that's fine. Let's call this AI brain component. Just shorten it a little bit. Avatar role tracker. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a different thing. AI brain component. It will be an optional pointer to a AI brain component equals to null. And then here in the on object created, we can query for these components to see if the parent has them. We can't use them in the do the same thing in create, because depending on the order of these components here in this list, it's possible that the object has one, but it just hasn't been created yet, right? So where's like the avatar, vehicle avatar component is right here. This guy can't query for this mesh component in its create because this vehicle avatar is in the list before the mesh create. But on object created is called when everything has been set up. All the components have been created. So here is where we can quite simply do self AI brain component equals game object, and then we just give it the type of component that we want to have. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory here. We should never have more than one AI brain component. The engine technically doesn't care, you can have more than one. And quite frequently we have more than one mesh component on an object, but if we did something like this, this would just give us the first AI brain component that we have. Now then, here, on became server avatar. So if self AI brain component, this would be like brain, and brain, we can just call clear all layers, append disable AI, right? Something like that. So with a little bit of luck, that should now actually give us what we want. I can actually just comment out all of that. We don't need to have that. These are sort of statically figured out whether or not these things are available on the type or not. They're not like virtual functions or anything like that. There's a comp time system looking for a function like this, and then it calls it if it's there. If it's not there, then the code is just like not generated for that. Niceties of SIG. Okay. Let's see if this works. So this should now essentially enable us to all right, okay. One sec, I need to try that, right? Yeah. This should now essentially allow us to switch to the mother vehicle and just start driving it after the thing has finished, after the intro has finished. We can do an U-turn immediately when we get control of the vehicle. Just do an U-turn and see the camera just go like whoa. It handles the blending somewhat nicely. It's driving past us. Right, so it clearly applied the brakes there because it stopped so quickly. Now we can switch to this and look at this. We can do things again with it. Isn't that nice? So this was the easy thing to do. The next thing that is much more complicated, which is sort of part of the same package of things that I need to have working, is to be able to somehow call up a list of vehicles. Kind of similar to how like you hold down one of these buttons here. This one. And you get the vehicle control here, right? Like I haven't really figured out this, how I want this user interface to work with this AI thingy. But basically I would like to use, kind of conceptually use the radio, right? Like these people in the campaign, they kind of talk to each other over the radio. There's like a radio audio effect over the voiceover and everything. To give you the illusion that these people are all sort of in these vehicles somehow talking to each other over the radio. And sort of like, you can also talk on the radio, but what you can't just chit-chat. You can't just chit-chat. Instead, you can give sort of orders, ask them to come to you, things like this. HRN says with the D-pad. Yeah, this is controlled with the D-pad currently. Yeah, the input is not really like the... I mean, ideally you should be able to even rebind the keys if you want to. I'm sure we can come up with an input scheme that works. But it's more like a case of like, okay, so you have these vehicles. Some of the vehicles are kind of like part of your group of vehicles that travel from area to area. Currently we have just two. We have the Scout and we have this big one here. There will probably be more in the campaign. Not necessarily in the demo, but in the full campaign. In addition to those vehicles that are kind of like your vehicles, the vehicles of the group that you belong to, you have vehicles that you find in the environment that you can just sort of borrow for a little bit, and then they might be left behind. Maybe some of those will actually be added to your group of vehicles that you take with you. This is just sort of like me musing about how this stuff would actually work. But I'm wondering how to actually present all of this in the UI. Like you don't want to get like a whole list of all the vehicles in the level, right? Some of which you might never have seen. You don't know what they're called. If it just says like gripper, and the gripper is kind of like inside that warehouse over there, you know, which it is currently, then like there are a lot of problems. Like you can't just order this guy to move somewhere, because this thing is kind of supposed to be sort of empty and have no driver right now, until the player then discovers it. And I guess like conceptually, if you as the player, you drive up to that and then switch to it and then drive around with it, you can conceptually consider like, oh, maybe there was another person in the car with you, so they now took your place, and you can order the Scout to like, hey, come join me as I'm driving around with this gripper thing here. But yeah, all of this is kind of like, I haven't exactly decided how that should work. I saw here that when I actually switch between these cameras, you have like free camera here, and then you have free camera with player input. It actually jumps to the world origin. That's a bug. It's a bug right there. What's the game's goal actually? So the game will have a sandbox mode, which doesn't really have a goal, I guess. You can just mess around with things. The campaign goal is to actually sort of get off this place. I'm not gonna spoil like a whole lot of stuff, at least not yet. You should be able to play the demo reasonably soon. Oh yeah, there's a thing gone horribly bad, and you're basically supposed to get off the planet essentially. And you do that by solving some physics puzzles and stuff like that. So I'm not planning to have any combat, but we'll see. That is at least the design for now. Right, but okay. If we start with something very simple, I guess technically we can even hard code a list of vehicles that are with you in a given mission. You know, sort of vehicles that you're supposed to be able to like radio and go like, hey, come over here, please. Now, I need you. So maybe we can do something like that. Right? Like if we take this guy here, and let's say we want this. We want to use this vehicle to enter the base. We should be able to drive here and then radio the mother vehicle that, hey, come here so that you can lift me over this stupid wall here. That sort of thing. How would we do that? And how do we make it sort of nice and user friendly? And I guess I kind of like the idea of it being sort of a radio. It can be used then for other things as well. And so the characters that you're radioing here aren't really like the characters actually saying things. But the characters are actually kind of like the vehicles. Like if we drive here, for example, there should be Rowan is one of the characters, like human characters, and Stellar is another one. And they're saying things to you, but you're not really radioing the people, right? The people are just there to give sort of a flavor. Instead, the characters of this game are sort of like the vehicles. So you can radio another vehicle. And maybe we can add some like just flavor radio messages as well. Whoever happens to be inside that vehicle would then reply something funny or something. I don't know. That could be kind of interesting. But yeah, I like that. So, how do we make a radio menu? That feels nice. And should we make it so that you can actually sort of imagine you have this camera here, you can rotate it around. If you have sort of like a what do you call it? Like an aim, like a target reticule or something like this. That would be here in the middle of the. Imagine that mouse cursor being the target reticule. You could actually tell the thing to like, hey, come here, drive to that place. Would that be cool? That might be pretty cool. Then you could at least try to be very specific about where you want those guys to go. Yeah, with a bigger vehicle, like you can see that the target reticule needs to be sort of higher up then. It needs to be around here, so that you can actually sort of place it. And this thing obviously has a target reticule, this crane, which is just drawn over the crane magnet. But that might be a pretty interesting thing to have. Then you could tell the someone to like, hey, move here, and they will try to do it, unless you actually interrupt them. We should, by the way, still be able to tell this guy to move to like the ruined house, for example. Yeah, they will do that. So that's kind of nice. Now let's see if I move that crane to the side. See if it just gets horribly stuck. I have a feeling it might get horribly stuck. Yeah, looks like it did okay. Alright, so now the AI is done with its thing, and we can again switch to it. But we should actually be able to switch to it, like if we now just go move to outside main gate, and we just stay close to it. Oh, we can't actually switch to it unless it's reasonably still. Yeah, that's a problem. Well, it's not really a problem, it's kind of how it's supposed to be, but it's a problem for my test here. Yeah, both your own vehicle and the vehicle you want to switch to need to be stationary enough and close enough. And that is when you can actually switch to them. Yeah, okay. All right, all right. Well, at least this AI switching now works kind of nicely. That was actually a pretty easy thing to do, after all. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's just start building some stuff here. Not sure what to actually sort of what to actually start with. So let's say that you have like you want to tell a vehicle to go somewhere. What are like the steps involved in just like the user interface for doing something like that? Like first you need to like select vehicle to move. Actually, select vehicle to contact. Select move to option, and then select target location, right? Right, these are kind of the steps you have to go through on just like a user interface level. You can also do just using the same thing, like asking a vehicle to follow you. So that would be select vehicle to contact. At this point, we don't know what you actually want to tell them. Select follow me option. So this first one is always the same. It's essentially just like, hey, radio this thing, radio this vehicle. And then some of these have just like a, this is all it takes. You just select this and the vehicle goes like, okay, or if you are somewhere where it can't follow you, it will go like, no, I can't fit into that tight space or whatever. Then other options actually have like an additional step. So if you select move to, then it switches into like a sub sub mode where we actually need to aim somewhere on the ground and go like, hey, here, go there. And then again, the vehicle can go like, nope, I'm not gonna go there because it won't fit. Something like that. But again, it always starts from just like radioing someone. And then we can just add like a bunch of funny options here if we want to. We'll just expand on the whole lore and everything. So I kind of like that. It's usable for many things. Yeah, now it kind of the more you play this, the more you go like, I just want to skip this thing. And this camera sequence animation thingy actually is probably easier to skip because like the missions that it actually starts, the mission that it starts is going to actually continue being active, etc. So. Right. So, let's say you press a button and then you get another view here. We haven't really used this corner for anything yet. And that's kind of been the intention. We have another script here called test mission, which we can start. You can see here that the test mission is just a hard-coded mission that allows us to test out like things like the dialogue lines, stuff like that. And this is kind of like how long the dialogue line visualization is. Here you can see one that is two lines, so this is about as long as it gets. We can basically fit another UI element here, or maybe we can put it here on the side, I don't know, slightly above the thing. Yeah, this is a bogus mission. You just need to drive that. There's actually a nice little objective marker there for the player even. It's like, yay, I found the place. And then the mission ends. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll put it here on the right, like in the middle, so you get like a radio menu here or something like that. Yeah. For that to make sense, though, we want to actually make it so that we know which vehicles are kind of available for radioing. And I wonder if we should actually embed that into the mission. So we have the mission flow here. you would kind of set up the state like we do here before we're actually starting this whole thing. We have this set mission control script. It's just like essentially like initialization. So you could have like an add radioable car or whatever. I use radio here as a verb. But like add a car to the list of available vehicles that you can actually like contact. As a sort of similar pass-through node as this. And then, you know, if however unlikely it is, if at some point a vehicle is like exploded or blown up or just like breaks down during a mission, then you can just remove it from that list. I think that kind of works, because then at some point when you actually want to open the radio menu, you could just ask the mission, hey, what are the vehicles that I can actually contact right now? At this point in the narrative. It's a pretty game-specific node, of course, but that's not necessarily really a problem. Like all of these nodes are actually kind of generic in nature. Yeah, you know what we could actually do? At least as a very very first version, we could actually have just a string global variable, right? We can have strings. Yes, we can have strings. And we could just have the names of the vehicles comma separated. That would give us a list of things. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good. That sounds like a pretty good compromise. Right, or sort of like a starting point here. So what we could do here is have a write global variable string. We need to create a string here. So add string variable. And what do we call this? Like I was thinking something like group vehicles, right? Something like that. Group vehicles, but that's a bad term. Let's Google for a better one. Party vehicles, yeah. Party vehicles. If you consider the group of people as like a party. Yeah. Maybe something like that. And then what we would do is we would go here to the level and get the path for the ones that we actually want. So that would be mission elevator, vehicles. So we have that one, and then comma, that one. Mission elevator vehicles mother and mission elevator vehicles scout. And of course, if we are scout, then it should filter out the scout from there. So we only have this mother to actually show. And of course, you can't use this name to show in the UI. Well, we can for now, probably, but not in the final game. We need to have a nicer, friendlier, player-facing name there. Yeah, maybe party vehicles is a pretty good name. It's sort of like the vehicles that belong to the party that you are, the traveling party. Yeah, let's go with that for now. And then we can quite simply have sort of a naming convention so that the system always expects there to be a party vehicles member for the current mission that you're playing as. And if you're not playing the campaign, i.e. you're not playing a mission, then you can't necessarily contact any of the vehicles. But we should probably make it so that you can do that in sandbox mode as well. However, if you are playing the campaign, then it sort of limits the vehicles to just a few. Yeah, that's probably actually what we want. And so, if you're not playing a mission, like now, for example, now I've just loaded into the level, and I call like load test vehicles. This spawns in a bunch of vehicles here. Now if we open the radio menu, it would just add all of these guys there. Yeah. Test vehicles truck. Yeah. Something like that. Okay, let's just put in like a very rough version. I think I have this spec'd out to a level where I can actually start doing something. Oh, actually, this is the description. Let's put it in the actual value instead, and we can see here the vehicles that are considered to be part of the player's party. Something like that. Okay. So we need, first of all, we need an input. We just start with this like very basic thing. Just being able to actually open that menu thingy. How should we open the menu thingy? I'm just going to play the game here a little bit and see. I want this game to play very nicely with a controller, so I'm kind of like typically designing this with controller first. Also because like a controller has much fewer buttons than a keyboard, it's typically not a problem at all to find a free button on the keyboard. And of course the player is supposed to be able to rebind. Right. So if you push down on the right thumbstick. It toggles between the camera modes. Alright, the triggers are both used. That's the right bumper currently. The left bumper, kind of interestingly, actually enables or disables the cruise control. That's kind of a debug thing, really. I wonder if we actually want to switch over this to the left, because we have the menu there on the left. Vehicle control. So vehicle control would be on the left bumper instead. And then we could have the radio menu here on the right. But then of course this vehicle controller menu works in such a way that you click the button and it stays on for as long as you have it hold it down, keep it pressed essentially. That's not necessarily what we want with this other menu. Load test vehicles. Let's have one which has more than one role so that we get something here in the vehicle control menu. If we switch to this gripper here, now we have two, a gripper arm and a driver, and it keeps that menu there as long as we have this button pressed. If we let go, then it switches to the gripper arm controls. Yeah, I'm not sure we actually want to do that with the radio, because the radio has like many steps as we laid out previously, right? This has just one. There's just like up and down. But the radio will have like, okay, select person to or vehicle to contact, select what you want to do, what you want to tell them, and then depending on that, possibly select like a third step if it requires more than one. Yeah. And on the keyboard, if you hold down Q, currently at least, by default, shall we say, that's the vehicle control. F switches between them. That means that we have E free to actually use. Yeah, I think that will probably work quite okay. Let's do that for now at least. I'm gonna unload that so that we can actually make some changes here to the things. So we'll change the, what is it? Show avatar screen, is it? Is it show avatar screen? Yeah, right bumper, that will be left bumper. And Q is also that. Yeah, that's a weird name, by the way. Show avatar screen. It should be something like avatar roll screen, I guess. Let's see. Show avatar roll screen. And there as well. Here as well. All right. And let's quite simply make it show radio screen. And we need to register that and tell it what it is. So we have actions, we have ranges, and we have states. And and an action is sort of like a click. So press down and release. That triggers an action. A state is essentially telling, if you query for a state, you're querying for, is the button held down right now, so to speak. Radio screen input type. Oh. And this is another question. Do I want it as an action or a state? A range is then like a, well, it's a range of values. So floating point number, essentially. Yeah, I think I'm going to make it an action for now, although it's kind of different than the other one. So it might be confusing. I might have to change this avatar roll screen to an action later on. But for now, let's keep it like that. And this would be show radio screen, and this is now going to be right bumper. And let's see if, do I actually have key E? Vehicle interact, oh right, interact is E, yeah, alright. Yeah, I can't have that then on the keyboard. That doesn't matter, let's use R. I'm not using, I am actually using R. That's a reset, but I don't think I'm actually using the reset for anything, right? Yeah, it's just there. It's not actually being used by anyone, so let's comment it out. I'm hoping I actually won't need it, but it is possible I will. So radio screen, and we just map R for radio. I think that makes sense. Right, and now what was the place that actually read? Is it the in-game UI view model? Is this the place that read the? I don't remember anymore. Let's have a look. Show avatar roll screen. It is the vehicle avatar component which actually reads this. Read the input on both client and server. The client input will trigger the callbacks. It causes the menu to quickly react to input. So it will also trigger the callback, but slightly slower, correcting the state. It somehow manages to get out of sync. Yeah, this is something that I covered in a previous video. Not a live stream, I think, but like a VOD. And this is how we actually set the menu, whether or not it's active or not, etc. So roll menu visible, these are probably propagated values. Yes, roll menu visible is like a bool, and then highlighted roll index is an index. And then we also have the active roll index. Okay. I wonder if we want to do the radio menu using a similar system or not. But how is it actually conveyed to the UI then? Avatar role selection screen. Right, we set it to Goofy property. Goofy is the name of the UI system, and Goofy supports just properties with a name. You can set, and then you can have it react to when those properties change. All right. Let's see, title text. Where does it get the actual names of the roles? Right, okay, the roles are set. They're added here. Okay. Yeah, so we could have a similar screen to this where we like add all the vehicles that we can connect or contact. It does get kind of complicated though. But it shouldn't be super tricky to do. Anyway, we should be able to now see if we show, let's see, show menu. So show, this is like avatar role menu. Should have used some kind of rename tool for that. Was avatar role menu shown? Like so. Somewhere here is probably where we set the goofy properties. Yeah, here we go. So these are the handlers for the propagated values. And yeah, we only bind them actually on the client. We have an if statement here, so we only bind them on the client. And when they change, we set the goofy property to whatever it needs to be. Okay. Seems simple enough. Show radio menu. This is a non-action. Input action means input ID. Show radio screen. If show radio menu. Let's make sure this works. Oh, I could have just played the game. Yeah, let's just make sure this is exported. And we can actually shut down that whole thing and then just run the game from here. Okay, so we get two of those every time I press, like press, you can see there, and over here that we get two of them. One is on the client, one is on the server. That's completely normal. But yeah, that works. And right, now we have the cruise control bound to the same key. Input zig is what we want. So left bumper. Yeah. I'm just gonna comment this out for now. We need the buttons for other things. Yeah, you can currently just map multiple things to the same key. That is sort of a feature of this, but it's kind of easy to do by accident, so might want to actually have like a warning if that happens. Triggered. Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can't see this now, but now the menu is on the left, and now we also control it by a button that's on the left, so that kind of makes sense. And this right-hand side bumper is showing the radio menu. That's fine. We should also be able to trigger it. The keyboard, if I can just get like one more output, that's not actually show radio menu there somehow. Can I get that? I could probably get it by just loading the test vehicles. No? How annoying. Now I can at least get it. So, R. Yeah, shows the radio menu as well. Yes. All right. I have a feeling I need to sort of I need to let this menu concept cook a little bit more before I can actually properly present this to you guys. So maybe it's actually better that I do that off screen. It's a pretty important thing, this radio menu, I think, for various reasons. So it's best that I get it right. And to that end, I think I'm going to end this stream now, instead of just rambling on about various possibilities to do it. Then maybe in the next video we can have like a base framework running so that we can actually do some more fun tests and development with the system. So this was a bit of a rambly stream, I know. Sometimes that happens. I thank everyone who checked in regardless. Hope to see you in the next one for perhaps a bit more coherent stuff. Have a good one, and bye.